Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday. So Monday is audio.
Yep.
And Wednesday is video.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're watching us. You know who you are, that 4-letter word. You know who she is. we shall not say her name because we wanted to see. We wanted her to watch.
Dana.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I guess she is watching us now. That's really good news.
I don't know if she is. She's so busy.
I'm going to assume she is. So thank you for watching us today. We really appreciate it.
She's so busy. Welcome to California, where the sun is checked out. No sun for us today. No sun at all whatsoever. Kind of bad. I know, right? It's kind of cool. And it's June. June gloom. Before we start the show, I want to say this. I realize now that I have a lot of young little followers, and I'm so excited that I have young little followers. And so I'm going to make a conscious effort, or not that I'm going to, make myself different, but I'm going to be conscious of, I just want to make sure that when I say things that they come across correctly, and I don't want people to think that I'm grooming you. I'm getting groomed right now. No, that's the point. So I want to thank all of my listeners. I want to thank all of my watchers. You know who you are. And with that, welcome to Do It Like Danny. I'm going to tell a million stories, and maybe one will hit home, and you'll be like, wow, that happened to me. And it's not about me. Well, it is. Television is a very, very crazy beast. I learned so much at Tyra. This is real emotion. This is something that I experienced.
I want the world to see what I have always seen, and that is the love that you have for just being yourself.
I love this person who knows who he is, who can make people laugh.
I think the script I gave you was a little bit different, but I'll take that.
Okay, sorry.
I'm drinking at work because it's my show. I drink on my show. So welcome back to Wednesday. Yes, so if it's Monday, you're listening to the audio. Thank you so much for listening to the audio.
We really do appreciate anybody who's following us on YouTube. And if you're not, please follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Subscribe. Louie is going to put fun things you can click to subscribe. And if you're watching, you just click, don't be a closet watcher. Don't be a closet watcher. I know so many people that are in the closet. Come forth. Come into the light, Caroline. How was your week?
It was pretty good. My filling came out, so that's always great.
Oh,
yeah, I swallowed it, and now I have to go to the dentist. So here we go.
Oh, are you in pain?
No, I'm not. Thank God. I have about 3 days, it said. So by tomorrow, I should be dying.
Oh.
Yeah, you have 3 days before you can wait. I think it's up to 7 days, but they recommend that you wait about 3 days, and then that's
for your filling?
Yeah.
But you ate it.
I ate it. It's gone.
Oh. That's so gross. Well, I mean, my week has been pretty full, doing the whole rideshare thing and, trying to change straight men to gay every single day of my life.
How's that working out for you?
Oh, my God, it's just terrible. I'm a groomer. People are grooming me to be straight. Just so you know. Yeah. You notice I'm talking deeper today? I was watching a lot of golf over the weekend. With the coming of Pride Month and, everybody kind of showing how they don't have any pride and then people who are showing that they have pride, there's been a clash in the nation. It's crazy. It's like, what I don't understand is there are murderers, there are pedophiles, there are people that are incarcerated that have done some real bad stuff to people, including children. And I don't see a lot of that in the gay community. And people are picketing schools and people are picketing, pride celebrations. And I don't understand because wouldn't you want to go picket the jails because those crazy people are going to be released soon back into society where they've already proven that they've done something bad. And in this instance, gays are getting accused of grooming and all this other stuff and all these Target and you name it, all the major brands. We spoke about this earlier. Even Chick-fil-A is getting some flack. And by the way, I eat Chick-fil-A.
But you call it hate food.
I call it hate food. We call it hate food. I mean, I've had a Chick-fil-A. Do I eat it often? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, it's good chicken. I mean, is Chick-fil-A grooming me to become a Christian? I think not.
Well, how do you feel when you see things, and this just happened in Glendale just this week, when you see parents fighting with a community of people who just want to be represented? I mean, how does that make you feel?
It is a negative thing. That's a good question. You know, it's here's the thing. There's very few people that are going out there and demonstrating that the community can be a positive thing. I mean, here's the reality. And you're going to think I'm crazy, but if you try to get rid of us, who's going to do your hair? Who's going to do your makeup? You're going to look busted. You really are. I mean, and I hate to put it that way, but there are so many talented people in the community, and there's more that are coming. You can't knock them down. You can't knock us down. It is what it is. You know, in high positions, in movies, in television, it's across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, the community is so connected in that realm. You know, Politics, I'm not sure. I try not to be political.
Well, they're hidden. It seems like it's a hidden thing to be in politics and be gay.
Well,
it's not so open. It's starting to now.
Well, they're closed. They're closeted.
Yes.
They're closeted. I mean, that's the reality of
Yeah.
it. Going back to, you know, the clash, I think what scares me is that it's so close to home. It's so close to my area. You know, you hear of this like in Tennessee, and you hear of this in other countries where it is outlawed. You know, you're considered a criminal if you are gay or you partake in any type of gay stuff.
And
community.
in some places they still stone you, which is
correct.
So
and they'll hang
medieval.
you, and they'll and I can think of a few people that could be hung. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, there's murderers, there's people that actually did really, really bad things and have done bad things. Going back to what I said before, so I think personally, the heterosexual community thinks that we're weak already because we are, or some are feminine and some are this and some are that. They already view us in a negative light. So it's sociology. You're going to pick someone to hate in the room. Why not let it be the weakest person or the weakest person that you perceive it to be?
Yeah.
And right now our community is kind of weak. I mean,
you think so?
Absolutely. I mean, for as far as we think that we've come, we haven't. I mean, even me, like even I, when I do my rideshare, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, to protect myself, I'll switch up like, hey guys, how are you? Right? And because I don't even know.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're gonna get. And it's like Russian roulette.
And we had that discussion earlier,
We did have that discussion too, and it's like you never know what you're going to get. But that goes to say for everybody. You know, a quick story is when I was living in Palm Springs, it was 2:30 in the morning, and we had gone to grab something to eat, myself and my friends. I have just been always really good at gauging the energy of the room in an instant. Like, I learned that from Cheesecake, that 10-second likability, and I just know what I feel. And I knew it, and we walked into the Denny's, and there is I think it's a Marine base. It's military that's in 29 Palms. And I knew that there was a bunch of tables that were there, right? Of course, we walk in, and, some of my friends were screaming and carrying on. And there was actually a lot of gay people that were in the restaurant. I'm sorry, community members. There were a lot of community members that were actually in the restaurant sitting in booths. And then the Marines, whatever the military they were sitting in tables in the middle. We went, we sat down. There was one guy that just kept looking at me. He kept staring at me. And I'm like, this is the one. That's the one. He's the one that's looking to start the fight.
Start some trouble, yeah.
Sure enough, we order our food. We're sitting there. They start making fun. We were having a good time. We weren't bothering anybody. And the other gays were afraid to say something. So he's talking smack. And I was like, you know me, I'm quick and fast. So I said to him, anything happens after this point, it's a felony. Just so you know. And he's like, oh, what are you going to do? F word, which is not F-U-C-K.
Yeah. I think we understand.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, like, what is your problem? Like, we're just sitting here eating. And he's like, I don't care. I don't like you. So we let them do their thing. They were out of control. The manager walked away. She'd been watching this the whole time. She had to go do something in the back. The minute she walked away, that was it. They came up to the table, they started talking smack to us, and it was one of those things where like, I'm not going to do anything. And like, you're picking on people that you think are weak already. You already think that we're females. So basically, as a heterosexual man, if you are straight and you are picking on gay people, you're basically, in your mind, picking on women.
You're also a bully. Like, you already know what you're trying to do, and you go about it anyways.
But
what does that say about you?
But exactly, what does that say about you? You are picking on women in your mind. So do you hit your wife? Do you hit your girlfriend? Do you... You know what I mean? Like, what does that say in terms of you being a man? You're not a man. And then on top of that, you're defending our country. How does that work? That makes no sense at all whatsoever. But I've never been in the military. I don't know what they teach you in the military. And maybe they teach you to be assholes like that. I'm not sure. Not sure. I will tell you this. I have been with lots of military men. So there's a lot of repressed energy in there somewhere.
Going back to that story, in those kind of moments, how do you feel? Like, obviously, the adrenaline's running. You never know what's going to happen. But internally, when you go home and you have to relive it, because we all have those moments, how does that make you feel? Does it hurt? Or do you laugh at it? You know, how does one... Because I've never been through that. You know, so for people who don't understand that, how do you deal with that?
Well, so it didn't end there. They harassed us. This is before also too, cell phones were able to even record stuff. I mean, we still had flip phones. And so, you know, you can't, like, it's a flip phone. There was nothing you could do.
Absolutely, yeah.
The manager came out and told them to get out. They exited the restaurant, but what I noticed was one of the crew grabbed his plate of food, and I was like, oh my God, this is not going to be good. Sure enough, we were sitting in a booth, and the booth was all glass, and it overlooked the parking lot. He ran up and took his burrito, and he rubbed the word fag on the window. Just
so like
that.
an animal.
Just like an animal.
Just like an animal.
Exactly. And they all laughed, and they sped off in their 4x4 trucks. Shocking.
Making up for something.
Yeah, making up for something, whatever they're making up for.
Yeah.
Let's put a pin in that for just a second so that everybody can kind of understand why, because you're probably thinking, well, who cares, right? In Palm Springs, there's a huge gay community. In fact, I would honestly say that is how Palm Springs has maintained its beautifuln's, amazingness, because there are so many gay people.
Would you say it's probably like the biggest community? Or one of the biggest?
I don't know, because we did the fact check, Dana. So Dana will find out, and Dana will let us know. So I'm going to say sure, because it's a small area. It's not a large area.
Yeah.
So I think per the area, there are a lot of community members, if you will. And so, you know, listen, they retire there. They do all sorts of stuff there. I go out there often. I lived up there for 2 years, and it was interesting. And we'll probably talk about that more later. But to kind of experience all that, it was such a juxtaposition. This makes no sense. There's rainbows everywhere. People are happy. The gays not run Palm Springs, but they're everywhere. And there's art exhibits. It just was such a weird disconnect to have these military men coming after us when I would say at that moment in time, there were 75% of the patrons inside the restaurant were gay.
Yeah.
So why? What were you looking for? You know, and of course, obviously, it's after 2 o'clock in the morning. Maybe they'd been drinking Bud Light. Not sure what they were drinking. So going back to what you said before, what's going through my head when people try to attack me or I'm in these situations, I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about, oh my God, like, you know, this is how I'm going to go out. I hope not.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is going through the other people's minds, but my one friend who sat next to me, he's like, girl, how did you know that was going to happen? And I was like, I knew it. I knew it when I walked in the room. They were looking. You know, you've driven the bus before. And listen, even me on rideshare.
Yeah.
There are people that just get into your car or bus and they are looking for a fight. Yeah. And that's so sad, but that's where we are. Right now, everyone's on a reactionary level because apparently they live such a gratuitous life.
Well, we live in a very me. What am I going through right now? You couldn't understand. When in fact, there's a lot of people that definitely understand what you're going through, what I'm going through. We just don't talk about it enough. That's
Fair.
the biggest problem.
And I think also too, men don't talk about it. I
Yeah.
think whether you are in the community or whether you're not, I think men put this like persona of like, oh, I'm a man. I'm
But
not gonna.
are we not taught that? Even as a gay man, before you even came out, weren't
Yeah.
you not taught, hey, men don't cry.
Men don't cry.
Men don't talk about this. Men
Yeah.
don't do this. So we kind
But
of do it
it's
to
okay to
ourselves.
cry. I cried when I got this.
And somewhere on YouTube, it is showing you crying, accepting the award.
But I'm an ugly crier. I think I'm like Oprah. I'm like an ugly crier. I'm like, I look terrible. I watch out for them bags.
Well, it's a good thing
I
now
need
you have
Botox.
me as an editor. I'll put the crying Jordan over your face.
A big head.
Yeah.
You know, bringing it all back home again, because I've told so many different stories at this point, is we're going to go back to what happened it was Glendale, right?
Yeah.
It's no secret, and this is not racist, that it's a very predominant Armenian community. Now, I don't know what the religion is. I don't know how they're brought up. I'm going to assume and figure that, you know, being gay or same sex is not accepted or tolerated.
Yeah.
But you know, what can you do? You have these people coming from other countries that want to be a part of the United States, but yet don't want to adopt our policies or our way of thinking.
You know, for me, it's not that I want them to adopt. It's just you should at least be somewhat accepting. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. And again, you have your right to protest. What you don't have the right to do is cause any kind of fear or harm to somebody. And that's what bothers me when I see people fighting, because that could be you.
Yeah.
That could be my other cousin.
It could
could be my uncle.
It could be anybody. And the crazy part is, going back to that story, is the man, so they're trying to look for him right now. There's a man in the video that is shown. If we can get a hold of the video and we can show it, then we'll show it here. And what you'll see is there's a moment where this particular man is punching only women. He's only punching women in the face.
But not men.
No men. He's only punching women, and they are trying to look for him right now. Like, it's all over Facebook and it's on Instagram. And if we can put it here also too, I mean, that's crazy. Like, what would compel you to just go to an event and protest and then be like, oh, I'm going to punch women in the face?
Well, we've talked about this, but I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but a lot of those guys are living a different life, double lives. We can go back to who was the Orlando shooter that shot up that nightclub?
Oh, yeah.
Was he not hanging in there too?
Yeah.
Into the gay community? He had his wife drive him to there, and then he shot up the place, correct?
Yeah.
I think I have those facts right.
Yeah, it's so crazy, though. You know, you would think that there'd be some sort of, not mental health, but like something that would help these men deal with the feelings, because they're obviously on the spectrum of potentially being gay.
I was just going to ask you, is there a hotline for gay men to call?
I mean, the only thing would be the suicide hotline, which is what is that, pound 988 or pound 998? Oh my God, we're gonna get
We're
fact
very
checked.
bad at
We
that.
mentioned it before,
Yeah.
but this is just because we're talking. We didn't really bring everything with us, and no, I mean, they'd have to have a therapist. But then again, it goes back to what we said before, which is men don't talk about their feelings. So any man that is going through this, where he's, on that cusp of, am I or am I not? And there's also bisexual. There's also, you can be both.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. And it's the funny part, this isn't new. It isn't like, oh my God, men are humping each other. This has been going on since the beginning
Since the dawn of time. Yeah.
Like, since the beginning of time, this has been going on. In fact, even back in Rome, in the Romans era, it was like considered like amazing if you had more male lovers than female
I
lovers.
think that was in Greece.
Like, but that's wild. Yeah. That's so crazy. So, I was born in the wrong time. But enough with this gay drama. Enough with the community. Enough with crazy people. Now it's time for my crazy story. In our last episode, I moved to California. I got a job in California working on the show called The Talk. I was working now with 5 ladies who I absolutely adored, all of them, or so I thought. And so it was 5 ladies, amazing time. My executive producer, John, reached out to me. He told me to work. I was working. I started, startup, crazy, insane, a seasoned audience. older, and crazy executives, crazy time, so many stories. I don't even know where. I can't even talk right now because I have so much to tell you about this entire time I was at the talk. All right, so we left off with, I was talking about the show, and
It was ADA. That's where we left off
ADA.
at.
It was the American Disabilities Act, and it was all of the ADA guests that were coming to the show. I had never been exposed to that many folks that required, accessibility.
At Tyra or Ellen, you hadn't.
Oh God, no. I mean, we would get a wheelchair here and there at Ellen. Very rarely. I think I got, in the entire career of Tyra, I think I probably received maybe 3 requests.
Wow.
For a wheelchair. There might have been more. They just never showed up.
And I have to assume that's because of demographic.
I don't know. I mean, accessibility exists on all levels.
No, yeah.
Whether young, older, but in this instance, it was definitely an older crowd, and they were all lovely people, some of them. And it was just one of those things where these folks knew the law, but I also knew the law.
Correct.
And what they were all hoping is that I wouldn't know the law. But let me tell you, those lawyers put me through the ringer. And so many things were implemented. I mean, even at one point, because the ADA lawyers wanted to know the pathway to the studio. And it was a good walk. If you needed accessibility, there was a cart for you. Right? And if you did need accessibility, then you would walk to the studio. And we made it a point, we'll make sure that we'll wait for your party to arrive. That way you guys get sat together, yada, yada, yada. We try to make it as easy as we possibly could.
Yeah.
Information went out. ADA information went out. There were so many levels to this. And it wasn't even an onion. It was like a bloomin' onion. There were so many different layers, so many different sauces. It was beyond Cheesecake Factory. And what I learned at the Cheesecake Factory was whenever they implemented a new policy, it was a blanket statement that went out, and we were all on the same page. So servers or people that worked there didn't have an opportunity to make up their own thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, we just started this rule and this is how it's going to be. It was, starting March 4th, this is what we will say now whenever somebody requests this. And that was what I implemented at the talk, especially when it came to ADA, because they were looking for us to fall on our face.
Oh, yeah, because they get money from that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there were only 2 lawsuits in the entire time that actually went through that I know of. Because I was there almost 9 years.
That's actually not bad.
That's not bad at all. Now, were there others? I'm sure there were, but these 2 were, I know that they were just paid out because we were actually required to David and I were required to send statements and information and stuff like that.
Or if things changed around the sets or things like that, then they got paid out.
They got paid out, which that's what happens. It didn't go to trial. They just said, oh, here you go. Here's $5 or whatever the amount is, and away they go.
I work for a company just like that.
Off they go. Yeah, off they go to the next show to try to find holes in their system. And then actually at that time, there was a lawsuit that had come out, and it was against a show. I think it was called The Real, but it was released that the audience department wasn't booking accessible guests, and they were saying that they were full. Yeah, I don't know whatever happened with that, but that's how that went down. I'm pretty sure it was The Real, or was it Bonnie Hunt? It might have been Bonnie Hunt. I'm sorry. I'm giving Dana. Dana will have to correct me. It's no longer Darnella. I don't know. Darnella hasn't been correcting me, but maybe Dana will correct me. So one of the shows, so sorry, it came out. And so I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to that's easy. You could do that. At Ellen, they did some of that crap also too. They would say, oh, we're full. We already have a wheelchair. Whether the wheelchair showed up or not. And that's really not the way the law works.
Yeah.
The way that it works out is you make a reservation for accessibility. If when you call and you need accessibility, then we were required to let you know that we are full for accessible reservations for this particular day. You're more than welcome to come. You're more than welcome to bring any other items that will assist you in aiding your journey to the stage, whether that be a wheelchair, a cane, a walker. You're more than welcome, right? because we wanted to make sure that we provide the environment for folks to not come back and say, well, I was told no.
Yeah.
You weren't told no.
Yeah.
You were told that reservations were full, which was true. And at that show, oh my God, we were able to make 4 accessible reservations for we were 2 over. We sat 220 or something. And I think by law we were required to have 2. And what that means is an accessible reservation, for those of you that don't know, is you make a reservation for the person that needs accessibility per the law and the guidelines of the ADA. You are always going to be accommodated with a guest seat. So it's 2 people.
Yeah.
So for every reservation was 2 people. Great. When you arrive, we'll give you a card. We had a whole system down. It was great. And you would go first on the carts because you were going to be sat first. The seating was semi-ambulatory. So semi-ambulatory means that you don't have to go up or down. It was stage level and it was a bench. There were no arms on it. So we were able to accommodate guests that were overweight or guests that, really couldn't get into a chair. They were relaxed.
Yeah.
It was a good system. It really was. Actually, I should say it was a great system because it was fair. Now, did people try to exploit that system? Absolutely. But let's go back. As I mentioned earlier about me getting hired in the show, number 1, great, wonderful, loved it. Number 2, they wanted me to do warm-up. And I'm going to touch that for a second because we're going to loop it all together. And the reason why that I had said no is because I didn't want to be greedy. I knew that I could double dip. I knew I could make more money, but I wasn't going to do it for $50. Kevin, we're back to that. And it wasn't fair. That was a big show. It was bigger than Tyra. There were so many moving parts. And I know that I said that before. And this was the very first day of taping. Of course, I didn't prepare for the warm-up. Of course, I threw it. And that's the truth. And in your life, people will say, well, when you get an opportunity, you should take it. You know what? It closed a door.
Well, you know what? Hold on. Before we even get into that, you've actually taken a lot of your opportunities and ran through those doors. So I actually will give you this one and be like, that's okay. Because honestly, you really didn't need to do it.
In this instance, I really did not need to do it. And I'm going to tell you because there were so many first day fails. It was honestly, the list grows. I had never been, first of all, they allowed the audience members to park on the lot.
Yes. And I remember those days.
Structure.
I remember those days.
I never imagined the older folks getting into fights. I literally had security calling me saying, I'm handicapped. In that time, it was handicapped before accessibility became the actual new term.
Yeah.
I need accessibility. Well, the parking structure only had, I think, 11 handicap spots. They were already full.
Wow.
In the first 15 minutes because everybody had a pass. In the state of California, you fart, you get an accessible pass. You burp, you get an accessible pass. They're trying to change the system because there are people that really do need it. And there are people that out there, you do not need it. And you know who you are. You know who you are. I'm about to say your names right now. No, I'm just kidding. And so all of that parking had filled. So now began, you don't have enough parking spots for accessible people. Nope, that's not true. Per the guidelines of the parking structure, we are well above.
Oh, wow.
That allotted, right? It's not our fault that everybody needs it, right?
Yeah.
You don't say it's our fault. You just said,
We're
first
not responsible
come,
either.
first serve.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way that it works. And the same thing goes where if you go to the mall, and all the accessible parking is taken, what do? You make do. You can't go to the mall and fight at the mall and say, oh, there's no more accessible parking. You need to come out and pick me up. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
People wanted a cart to take them from their cars and bring them down. Yes, we had an accessible cart. We had an accessible cart from the beginning of the journey to the studio. It wasn't a requirement for us to go pick up people in their cars. That's what we were dealing with. We were dealing with such a coddled society of accessible guests that they've been catered to, and it was just wild. And I say catered because I'm trying to think of a better word, because it was beyond of what we could ever have imagined of people needing assistance.
Yeah.
I mean, some people couldn't walk 5 feet. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why would you torture yourself? You're torturing yourself at this point. We had so many people bring the wheelchair folks, they didn't know what was going on. They wanted the giveaways.
Oh,
but we'll get into that in a
absolutely.
second. I'm
Yeah.
jumping ahead.
That's a whole nother episode.
First day fails, okay? First day fails. There was that parking situation. That was just the beginning. Not to mention the way that I had designed the department was I was the only ticketing show, all my shows, where I guaranteed your seat.
Yeah.
So if you go to other shows, they overbook. They don't hide it. They say we book in excess of studio capacity. If you don't show up on time, right, you don't get a seat.
Yeah.
So what happens is if your call time is 10 a.m., guess what? People are showing up at 8 or earlier because they want to make sure they're going to get into the show. What people don't realize is that you're draining them of all of their energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I never wanted to do that. Again, going back to treating them like cattle. And this is probably more information, but I think people should know this because it's important. I implemented at the show. You were guaranteed until a particular time, which I think is totally fair.
Yeah.
So you had up until, 10 a.m. and the show started at noon, right? So if you showed up at 9:59, you were guaranteed to get in. Was that a very dangerous game? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Because we booked in excess of the studio capacity. At the end of the day, we overbooked.
How were you able to time it each time and produce a full show?
Because we're still human beings. I'm always late.
So you guaranteed that.
So
you exploited that.
I knew that no matter what, you were always going to get late people, no matter what.
Got it.
And we tell them, they said, well, what time should we get there? Our blanket statement. You're guaranteed up until 9:59. Once it hits 10 o'clock, it doesn't matter if you're next in line. You will be considered late. And they'd be like, what? You're guaranteed. No other show does it. No other show in the business had ever done that before. And I did that at Tyra.
Yeah.
And I brought it here to the talk. And they thought I was crazy at Tyra. They're like, that's never going to work. What if we book an excess up? I had solutions to that. Did we hit that? New York, we did. We'll talk about New York. But in California, very rarely.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very rarely did I ever have to, eat my words, if you will. So with all of those moving parts, just to remind everybody, I was still supposed to do warm-up. It's 10:45. We're ready to load. We were late loading.
Okay.
I think it's like 11:15. We went live at noon. They still want me to do warm-up. I didn't have time. Normally, I'd go out there for 30 minutes and I'd warm people up. I'm running around, putting out fires, accessible fires, because now the folks are walking, but they all walk very slow.
Yeah.
We figured it was a 15-minute walk. I timed everything. We walked super slow. We walked with a walker. I went through all of the different things and the scenarios that could have existed myself with my team. And we said, okay, so what if there's it's a lot. It's a live lot. We're going this way. What if they're filming on that day? Then how do we go? And we were also working with a team of CBS pages, which were given to us, right? And these kids are young. And I say kids because, one of them just turned 30. And I mean, how long it's been like, his name was John.
Has it been 10 years already? No, huh?
No. It's been like
6?
5 or it's been 4 since I've been there, 4 or 5. But he had left 2 years prior. So, I mean, I had all these kids in their 20s.
Yeah.
So to see that he just turned 30, I was like, oh my God, I'm an old man. How crazy, right? So, they're good kids because their goal was the CBS Page program was implemented so that productions would get exposed to these kids and it would offer production an opportunity to hire them onto their full-time staff.
Yeah.
And at one point, actually all the points, I think only David was not a page. Everybody else on my team had been a page.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So it worked. It was a program that worked.
I was constantly, for me, because remember, I was also allowed to hire my own people.
Nice.
I didn't have to send them to the executives. I didn't have to. It was never a written rule. So I hired who I wanted. It was what it was. So now you have that group, right? So now I'm their manager. They have a manager, but I'm also their manager, and we're all on headset. So there's probably about, on any given day, probably maybe 14's too high. I think it's maybe it's 12 to 15 people on headset. Think of all the conversations that are going. Now, mind you, we didn't realize it was going to be so busy for Pages. So we're trying to get messages to my team, and you have to wait because everyone's talking.
Yes.
And it wasn't that it was not necessary. It was all necessary. Okay, we're turning the corner. We're doing this. Danny, we're coming to stage. It was a lot of communication. Wasn't prepared for that. So I couldn't get a lot of messages. I used my phone instead, trying to text the staff and we're trying to do all these different things. I had spent all my energy with security that morning and trying to put out all the individual accessible fires, people that were claiming that they were VIP and they were not VIP, people that had made an accessible reservation but were not able to get accessible parking because of whatever time that they arrived, who expected a reserved parking spot. We don't reserve parking spots. It's a separate entity altogether. Again, going back to the mall, story. Like we all had, I had all the stories in place to fortify what we were doing was safe and effective. And it was also, I didn't realize that a lot of these audience members, because we were starting out brand new, we did not know who was going to show up.
Yeah.
So we booked a lot of people the same days because we didn't want to be short. I mean, listen, a couple of days we were light, but we made it work. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, we would run light. And there's secrets in how I sat the show. Ask Dana. She'll give away my secrets. In this instance, it was all bench seating for the most part. There were some chairs. Every once in a while, we'd have to remove a row, and it'd be, anyways, more, that's too much going into it. But it worked. I had a great stage crew that assisted me and helped me with whatever I needed to do. His name was Todd. We call him Todd Maximus. And his crew, they removed stuff. They were, I would say the crew was probably as equally, if not up there, with the Tyra crew, but I can't ever knock the Tyra crew down because no matter what happened at Tyra, that is my number one staff, my number one crew, my number one, every producer, even the producers that didn't like me, I'm not going to say anything negative about them.
It was still like a unified front.
It was a unified front. It really was. So now fast forward to where I'm at now. Fast forward to where I'm at now at the talk. And I'm dealing with all this stuff. Now, I just gave you a snapshot of what I had to go through that morning, right?
And that's on day one.
That's on day one. And they wanted me to do the warm-up? Oh, well, let's get to that.
So we're going to do warm-up at like 2 p.m. or what?
We go live at noon. Live at noon. So I, again, expressed my displeasure. They knew I didn't want to do it. I went out there, and I was shit.
Now, why? Okay, so you displaced. You're like, look, I got all these things. Why would they force you to do it? Were they just trying to get it for cheap?
Well, yes, and I honestly think on the back end, I think that John knew because I was so good at Tyra, but John didn't know that what I have to do. Nobody ever asked me what I had to do. They don't consider the audience producer as anything. You're nobody.
Yeah. It's
like the most thankless job ever. And I shouldn't say that because I'm sure there's tons of thankless jobs. I don't want to just lump myself. I'm not the only one. And it really isn't me. There's tons of producers, and I'm probably there's tons of, lower assistants where it's very thankless. I think that executives don't take the time to figure out how the sausage is made. And sometimes people are allergic to pork, and sometimes people are allergic to chicken, and sometimes people are allergic to gluten.
Yeah.
And if you just want sausage, I think that's your biggest mistake.
Did John take it negatively that you threw it? Because I have to assume, coming from you guys working together, saw what you did at Tyra, did he vouch for you a little bit? And maybe, and I'm not putting you on the spot. I understand why you did it. I'm curious to see his side of it too.
So in John's mind, I think he thought that I was going to give this stellar performance, and that would give me leverage to go and fight with Kevin for more money. But it was new. It was too new. I couldn't be greedy in this situation. There's no way. After what I experienced that morning, and it gets better. Because the story that I need to tell you is coming up. I don't think that there was a malicious intent on John's part. I think John was like, Danny's going to be amazing. And at that time, they didn't have a budget for the show. You know, I'm sure it was going all to Mrs. O. And, you know, I get it. I get all of those aspects. And again, going back to, you're always supposed to give your 1,000% when you're put into it. There was no way. If I'd gotten that position, I would have killed myself. I would have killed myself. And because it didn't end there. So I do the warm up. It wasn't even my music. I think it was the stage manager's music, which was like oldies and blues. Not what you use to get an audience ramped up and ready to rock and roll, right? Out come the ladies. They're clapping. We go to commercial. I'm doing it. I'm doing the best that I can, which was tossing it away. I was doing a very shitty job. And I knew that I was. And at the corner of my eye, I see Leah Remini staring me the fuck down.
And for those of you who don't know who she is, she's the wife from The King of Queens.
Staring me down, right? She does not look happy. Whatever. Not my problem. I go through. I do what I do. I get a call from Kevin. Leah Remini fucking hates you.
Oh my God.
And I had done the pilot, mind you. And the pilot came out great.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So he goes, you're not doing it tomorrow. Great. Awesome. That's what I found out as the show's ending. Great. Awesome. I got what I wanted. Does Danny always get what he wants? For the most part, yes.
And that's where we leave you for the night.
Right? I always do. In this instance, I got what I wanted. I didn't want to do it, and I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it painted a very different light to Leah because Leah is very opinionated. She's strong, and she always wanted the show to be its best. She was met with, well, that's another story. So Leah always wanted the show to be good, and I'll just leave it right there. Leah did not like Danny Verdugo. Leah thought I was horrible when she was right. I didn't do a good job that day. So they ended up hiring this other guy named Bill, who had been doing it for years. And he does all the shows, you know, Big Brother and Survivor and you name it, he's done it. He's wonderful at what he does. But he was a warm-up guy. And in that position, you got to know stand-up and warm-up because you got to do both.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
not just warm-up. And he has been doing it ever since. And so kudos to him. But he should be thanking me because I'm the one that got him his job. Don't thank me. Don't thank me. So now let's go back to the end of the show. The show is over. We're about to start to exit, folks. All the pages, they're learning their new. We had to learn how to dismiss people in a very calm manner so people were not crazy. It was insane. The guests wanted to meet the host. So many different things that were going on, right? I'm trying to put out fire. And I'm with my staff. I'm on stage still. Now, you have to remember, I didn't really know the lot. I had a map. I had a schematic of the lot that said this was Gilligan's Island. This was Three's Company. All the different streets were named after shows, right? Residential was the residential area where you'd walk through all of the faux homes, right? They were all facades. And remember, on the headset, different people are talking. And all of a sudden, I hear, Danny, we got to call 911.
Uh-oh.
We got to call 911. And I'm like, what? Zach, what's going on? Zach, what's going on? And then someone's going, we're walking down to the... People were totally going over, and I couldn't hear him. Danny, come quick. We're off of Gilligan's Island and My Three Sons, which I'm like, pulling out my map, right? We had already decided on a particular path that the audience would go, so it would always be uniform.
Yeah.
It would never change unless there was a filming, or we weren't allowed, sound stages, sound studios, you have to be quiet. They weren't allowing some of the cars to go by. Plan A, plan B, plan C. I didn't know where he was. So I immediately get to my executives. I'm like, her name was Lee. Lee, we got to call 911. Well, wait, why? I'm like, I don't know. There's something going on. One of the pages is screaming, and in the background, I could hear, I could hear screaming. I searched for 5 minutes running around the lot. It's not a huge lot, but it's a big lot.
I've been there.
It's not somewhere where you can just be like, and I'm like, should I go get my car? I don't know where they are. And then finally someone said, they're over here. And of course I could hear the commotion. I'm running to the cart. It's a cart. The cart was there and the accessible door was open. And as I turn the corner, I hear screaming and I see why. There is a lady. Her wheelchair is thrown and she is face down on the hot pavement.
Oh my God.
Screaming. I'm burning.
Oh.
She's screaming. She was a very large lady. She was very large. I don't even know how large she was. Apparently, from what I found out later, the pages were driving. They weren't speeding. But when they were turning the corner, she didn't hold on or she didn't do something. She put her feet up against the grill and it popped the lock because, you're turning the corner. She was a large woman.
Yeah.
And she's in a wheelchair, so she has more momentum. And when they turned that corner, she went flying out.
Oh.
But because she was so obese, they couldn't flip her over. It took 5 people to flip her over. 5 people to flip her over. This is what we were dealing with.
And this is day one?
This is day one. Day one. The poor Paige, I think it was a few months before he came back to work on the show.
Yeah.
He was so traumatized because and later on when we shared conversation, poor Zach, he said, I'll never forget that moment when she went flying out and all I could hear was, I'm burning. He goes, it impregnated itself in my brain and I'm traumatized. And I got it. I mean, this is what you were dealing with. But then to be so helpless because he's one guy, how can he, flip her over? So of course, security got involved. It was on the cameras. Thank goodness that they called 911. Ambulance came. I mean, they had to have a special stretcher.
Oh, yeah.
They had to call another ambulance to come. Like, this was a large lady, a very large lady. And she just didn't take care of herself. God bless her. But she did not take care of herself at all whatsoever. Her feet were wrong. Everything was wrong. And I don't want to judge, but it was just a bad situation. This is a woman that, well, thankfully, thank God she tried to come to our show, but she needed to be working on herself. She needed to be doing other things other than going to a television show.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
But that's my own judgment. It is what it is. That day, a lot of policies went into effect.
I can imagine.
I drank my face off that night.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I got inebriated. I just got fucking loaded.
Was it because you're just so
It's
high
because
stress?
I was just so over it and I was just done. And then Leah Remini fired me. She didn't. And it was just one of those moments where I had had enough at that moment.
Was that your first time being on a show where you felt that way?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was beyond overwhelmed. Beyond. I'm so thankful that I have always had a great staff only because I got an opportunity to choose and pick them. So I can't blame any of my staff. I can't even blame them, but there's no blame here. It was one of those things that nobody had control over. As much control as I tried to have over it, I didn't.
Yeah.
There were so many free will choices to be made amongst everybody. It was wild.
So that was really Murphy's Law for you on that day.
That was beyond Murphy's Law. And I honestly, I took a moment and I was like, what did I get myself into?
So the red flags were there.
Oh.
Day one.
The red flags, it was a parade. It was a Disney parade.
Oh,
they were like, yeah. So that was day one of the talk. Day one. And I worked there for almost 9 years. We've got a lot to cover. I have so many more stories. So I will end it there, and I will say that...
Have a glass of wine.
Yeah. I always try to end these with some sort of knowledge of things that I've learned. But I think this is very appropriate. And that is, we all strive for perfection. And we want to be perfect so bad. But I hate to break it to you. Take me as an example. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to allow yourself a margin of error. You have to allow yourself to make mistakes.
And let go.
Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm older now. I'm just learning to let go. I am just learning to find the positivity in a lot of the negative situations that happen to me. And there's a lot of them. I can't control it. At the end of the day, we can't control it. So what I'm trying to learn now is to be a better human being, to try to be more in the moment, and to try to enjoy my life. Because I'm thinking back, and there were so many moments where I didn't enjoy my life. Again, I hate to break it to you. We all end up in the same place. So you could get mad at gluten, or you could get mad at... you can get mad at gluten, or you can get mad at Putin.
Oh, man.
But in the end, we're all going to end up in the same place. So why don't you make it a positive experience? Stop running around and trying to hurt people. I don't think there's anybody that can cast a stone anywhere on this planet Earth. Even the Pope. And that's saying a lot. And here comes the hate
the Catholics
mail.
are coming for us now.
It's okay. They know that they're bad too. Corruption exists on all levels, everywhere.
Everywhere.
It is what it is. Why can't we just be happier?
Yeah.
And with that, I hope you're happy this week. Because I'm going to be a lot happier because I'm going to go get a drink. And with that being said, have a Do It Like Danny week. And don't forget, subscribe and follow us today.